Link's journey in Twilight Princess begins with tragedy. His childhood friends, Ilia and Colin, are kidnapped by King Bulblin and his minions, taken into the depths of the Faron Woods, while Link is knocked unconscious. Once he awakens, Link gives chase, but as he approaches the forest edge, he notices that something is wrong. A wall of darkness towers before him, an endless void, etched in strange, otherworldly markings, quietly consuming the kingdom of Hyrule. This is known as the Twilight, one of the darkest forces in the Zelda series. But where did it come from? What is its story? Well, today, we are diving into the tragic lore of the Twilight Realm to uncover its mysterious history and understand how this great evil came to consume this once prosperous land. Long before the Age of Twilight, there existed the Dark Interlopers, a powerful clan of Hylian sorcerers, said to have honed a forbidden magic, power beyond anything that the kingdom had ever seen. Using this corruption, they sought to find and establish dominion over the sacred realm to gain access to the Triforce, an omnipotent relic said to grant its wielder their greatest desire, regardless of intent. Over the years, their twisted magic grew. Their power became so dangerous that it began to threaten the balance of the world itself. But their ambitions did not stop there. To aid them in their pursuit, they forged a powerful relic known as the Fused Shadow, a physical manifestation of their vicious, destructive power. In response to this dire threat, the Golden Goddesses of the land ordered the three spirits of light, Faron, Eldin, and Lanayru, to seal them away and put an end to their dark magic. And so, the interlopers were banished from the realm of light and cast into a parallel dimension through the Mirror of Twilight, a prison created to contain them, to ensure that their chaotic power would never threaten Hyrule ever again. But as generations passed, this realm began to change them. Their bodies were reshaped by the Twilight, gradually shifting them into something unrecognizable. No longer were they the Dark Interlopers, for now they became the Twilight, a race forever shaped by the sins of those who came before them. The Twilight Realm exists as a parallel world to Hyrule, one loosely connected through the Mirror of Twilight, which was born from the exile of the Dark Interlopers. But in the years that followed, it became something more. The Twilight came to accept their fate. No longer did they view the Twilight Realm as a prison, but instead as a land of their own. Within it, they began to rebuild, the birth of a new, peaceful society, one with its own customs, beliefs, and its own royal family. At its head stood the ruler of the Twilight Realm, Midna, the Twilight Princess. Under her rule, the Twilight lived in prosperity, raising families, serving their kingdom, and passing down stories through generations. The most sacred of them all was the prophecy of the hero, a legend that one would appear in the form of a divine beast, destined to save and guide the Twilight in their time of crisis. But little did they know, this tale would soon come to fruition, for in the realm of light, Hyrule, a great evil stirred. After the hero of time was returned to the past and successfully warned Princess Zelda of the Gerudo thief Ganondorf's imminent betrayal, he was captured and brought before the ancient sages. Condemned for treason and his crimes against Hyrule, Ganondorf was sentenced to death. He was taken to the Arbiter's grounds, bound in chains, muttering in horror as a sage of water readied their sacred sword, prepared to put an end to this great evil once and for all. With a single strike, the blade was driven through Ganondorf's body, followed by an agonizing roar of pain. Here he stood still, silent, the sword lodged within his chest. But he did not fall. In that moment, a faint light flickered from his hand. The Triforce of Power had chosen its bearer. Barely clinging to life, it granted him the strength to endure. He thundered in determination, the mark upon his hand glowing ever brighter as he strained against the chains that bound him, until at last they shattered. Without hesitation, Ganondorf struck back by killing the Sage of Water before drawing its blade from his body as he cackled maniacally. Realizing the true extent of his power, the remaining sages acted quickly. Unable to win a physical confrontation against the Gerudo King, they reawakened the Mirror of Twilight, prepared to banish him like the interlopers in the ancient past. Ganondorf struggled, resisting its immense pull, before being ultimately overpowered. He was dragged into the portal, banished from the world of light, and cast into the Twilight Realm. There he was left to rot in this unknown world, thought to be a prison by those who bound him there. But within this land of shadow, Ganondorf endured once again. Though he was stripped of his physical form, his power and spirit remained, endlessly searching for a way to return and enact his revenge once more. He was drawn to the lingering anguish and hatred among the Twilight, which led him to a singular, ambitious individual, the mischievous Twilight called Zant. Zant served the royal family of the Twilight Realm before Midna's reign, living under the impression that he would be the next to rule. However, his fellow Twilight were wary of him. They recognized his deranged desire for power and feared that his rule would ultimately lead them down the same path as their ancestors. So instead, they appointed the throne to Midna. This decision filled Zant with rage, causing him to completely lose faith in the royal family and the Twilight Realm itself. His mind was solidified. No longer did he see this world as a home, but as a prison, one made to constrain his kind from the land that was rightfully theirs. In this time of despair, Zant turned his eyes to the heavens and found what he believed to be a god, the lingering spirit of Ganondorf, who appeared to him as a gigantic, fiery manifestation of his face, presenting himself as a fierce, godlike deity. Ganondorf offered to house his power within Zant, stating that if there is anything he desires, then he will desire it too. Without a second thought, Zant accepted Ganondorf's deal. He used his newfound power to overthrow Princess Midna, transforming her into an imp and depriving her of magic, before she eventually fled to the realm of light. With the Twilight Princess dethroned, Zant seized the crown, proclaiming himself as the King of Twilight. From there, he put his dream into fruition. His fellow Twilight were transformed into monstrous shadow beasts, soldiers created to aid him in invading the kingdom of Hyrule, to spread his darkness and exact retribution for the imprisonment of his kind. His first stop was Hyrule Castle, where he pillaged and brutalized Princess Zelda's forces, presenting her with a harsh and definitive ultimatum: surrender or die. With no other choice, Zelda agreed to Zant's terms, and so he engulfed most of Hyrule in the Twilight, stealing the power from the spirits of light, and conquering each of its provinces as the people of the land were transformed into lost spirits. There they were left afraid in the encroaching darkness, unaware of the fate that had befallen them. This is where the story of Twilight Princess truly begins, where we follow Link, the chosen hero, and Midna, the Twilight Imp, as they journey across a kingdom consumed by shadow. With Link's newfound form of a divine beast, they work to restore the light of Hyrule, pushing back against the Twilight. On their journey, they revive the spirits of light, gather the fragments of the fused shadow, and bring hope back to the kingdom, restoring both the land and its people. This leads them to the Arbiter's grounds, where they repair the Mirror of Twilight, allowing them to enter the Twilight Realm and finally confront Zant. There they face him in a long and chaotic battle within the Palace of Twilight, flickering between battlefields before eventually emerging victorious and fully restoring the fused shadow. With its dark power, Midna strikes Zant down for good, finally putting an end to his terror. However, the curse he placed upon her remains unbroken, for the greater evil Ganondorf endures. And so, they made their way back to the Realm of Light and set their sights upon the peak of Hyrule Castle, prepared for a final and brutal confrontation with the King of Evil. The showdown begins with Ganondorf using Princess Zelda's soulless body as a vessel, forcing Link into battle, but eventually he is driven out and transforms into the monstrous dark beast Ganon, unleashing his full power. Yet, even this still was not enough. He is temporarily brought down by the hero of Twilight, allowing Midna to restore Zelda's soul before equipping the fused shadow, sacrificing herself to weaken Ganondorf as she teleports Link and Zelda to Hyrule Field for the final stage of their battle. With the help of the spirits of light, Link and Zelda ride on horseback, striking Ganondorf with sacred arrows, until the hero of Twilight is ultimately forced to duel Ganondorf on foot. After a fierce and formidable clash beneath the fading light, Link drives the Master Sword through Ganondorf's chest, watching as the Triforce of Power slowly fades from his hand, bringing an end to the King of Evil and the false ruler of the Twilight once and for all. With the forces of darkness slain, the spirits of light, in a final and gracious act, revive Midna, returning her to her true form as the Twilight Princess. Together, the trio make their way to the Mirror of Twilight, where Midna bids a definite, heartbreaking farewell to Link and Zelda. She remarks that light and shadow cannot mix, but to never forget that there will always be another world bound to this one. She sheds a single tear, leaving her parting words as she disappears into the Twilight Realm, while the Mirror of Twilight shatters to stardust behind her. The gateway to a dark, yet hopeful world is sealed once more. A whole civilization, born from the greed of old, now left to fade into legend. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Zelda content like this in the future. What do you think about the Twilight Realm? Should it return in a future Zelda game? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, that's all from me for today, so I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.